Alright, you've got a garden full of delicious homegrown tomatoes that blow store-bought out of the water. You really like chili and eating well in general, and you also like saving time and money. Awesome, me too. I'm going to show you the absolute best way to deal with an abundance of tomatoes other than giving them to grateful friends and family members. Heck, maybe even better than that. This box was just from the first time we were able to go out and pick this season. You've got to have a plan for 10 large tomato plants. I know personal preference reigns supreme, so if you know you like something, just stick with that. This is just the way we do it and we love it. Hopefully you can pull something new or interesting from this video. This chili will be a Southwest style and we really like it. It lets us use our peppers and tomatoes through winter and is a nice sidekick to the typical red chilies. Great flavor and some heat. Typically people use canned tomatoes or smaller specialty tomatoes. Gross. We grow a tomato called Big Beef. It's simply the most delicious tomato we've ever had. Every season transition from store-bought back to these guys is amazing, and we always forget how much better they are. Perfect across the board for every meal. You just need to know the quick tricks. Generally, people don't use these larger tomatoes for sauces or bases because they have a lot of juice and seeds. But they taste so much better, it's silly not to. Sandwiches to sauces to snacks, they are great tomatoes. Simply core off the top and squeeze most of the seeds and juice out. The fleshy part is still huge and packed with tons of flavor. Growing smaller tomatoes to avoid the seeds and juice to simply need to drain them anyway and cut more often is counterproductive for a lesser taste. Skipping ahead here, we have all the tomatoes cored and squeezed of the seeds and the juice. After you finish up quickly getting most of the seeds and juice out, you need to get to cutting. Yes, straight to cutting. Skinning tomatoes is time consuming and unnecessary with these, especially when cut correctly. Little side note here, I'm using a Mercer knife right here and I like it better than our Wusthof stuff. Also, don't forget a sharp and honed knife. Cutting a lot of tomatoes and vegetables is always a huge plus, so sharpen them up. Essentially, the way you want to cut these is basically so the skin isn't an issue while eating it. If you cut them all bite-sized, you can't even tell it's there. The skin on these tomatoes is also, pretty thin, so that's a bonus too. It's just not worth the step of peeling. Makes it almost, too tedious to even want to do it. Starting to put some of the chopped up tomatoes in the pot here, make it a little easier to cut on the cutting board. Here we go. All the tomatoes are chopped up. Put them on the stove. About medium, a little salt and pepper, get them starting to cook and cook down and get some of a little bit more of the water out of them, and I like to get it started before I start working on the rest of it. For a Southwest style chili, you gotta have some peppers. We grow our own yellow, orange, and green peppers here, and I'll be using those in this recipe. You can either cut out the top, which I would do with the bigger, rounder peppers, but those aren't ready yet in our garden. Here we have the smaller, skinnier peppers, so I often just cut the tops off and pull the membrane out with the seeds. After you've cut what seems like a million over the years, I just don't find it worth the time on the smaller ones anymore. Then just chop them up for the chili. Jumping ahead again, and we've got all the peppers chopped up and in the pot of chili, ready to cook. You can also see here, this is the waste bowl we had, full of all the seeds and the juice and the leftovers from cutting up the peppers. Next up, we have the onions. We prefer the bigger, sweeter, like Vidalia type onions, but I guess if you've got a personal favorite, those will work too. But you gotta chop those up and put those in the chili as well. Again, here we've got the onions all chopped up and in the chili with the peppers and the tomatoes. Quick shot here of all of it cooking together and cooking down a little bit. You can see some of the steam evaporating out, so it'll thicken up nicer. Making chili in this big a quantity, I prefer to use dry beans. These are red kidney beans dried, so I put them in water and hydrate them overnight, about an inch or two above the beans in the water. After it's cooked and simmered down for about an hour, all the vegetables are looking pretty good. Going overnight now into the morning, and this is what the beans look like after they're hydrated. You want to rinse them off. Then you're going to want to let them cook and soften up for about an hour and a half or until they, have the right texture to you. Definitely can't forget the meat. We went with the lean ground beef here, drained it of all its fat, but you could use sausage or any other type of meat that you want. To keep it nice and simple, use 2 packs of whatever your favorite taco seasoning is. We use cumin that we buy in bulk, so we made our own little shaker. Salt and pepper, standard staples here, and chili powder, along with the other original flavors from the vegetables that we've already put in. That's all you really need. Lots of tomatoes, peppers, beans, meat, and all your seasonings, and you're all set. Sure looks like a bowl of slop, but boy is it good. Put it together with a spoonful of sour cream and it's a hit. We're not done yet though. Now I'm going to show you the most effective way we found to store this chili through winter, and I'll say why we chose to do chili. Chili in itself is typically a custom meal. Everyone has their own way. It's really hard to beat a good Prego spaghetti sauce though, for only a few dollars. So we don't even like to try. It's just not worth the effort in that case. We also don't eat much spaghetti, as we prefer to skip noodles most of the time. Not because we don't like them, it's just the right thing to do probably. Chili also having the ingredients already in it makes it easier to freeze, whereas if you try to freeze spaghetti sauce, it really just gets extremely watery and it all separates. But having all the ingredients in the chili already, it really holds it all together. It also lets the flavors all meld together. You've heard, people say like, if you the leftovers in the fridge, the chili, the longer it sits in the fridge, the better it tastes. It's actually true. I mean, all these flavors are fully infused by the time you take it out of the freezer later. Just be sure you have freezer bags that are meant for the freezer, so they won't get freezer burn and they're more durable. And know how much you want to put in a bag. So basically, I kind of eyeball out enough for a meal for 3, I suppose. I actually have a pretty good trick. It's a little hard to see in the video, but what you do with the Ziploc bag is you squeeze out most of the air, put a straw in the corner, suck out the rest of the air, and you can see it is airtight in that bag. And that's way cheaper than a vacuum sealer. You can see here we've got about 4 bags. That's 4 meals, labeled SW for Southwest Chili. And that's about it. We went through what to do with tons of tomatoes, a good recipe, how to store it, why we do it with chili, and yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this and had some useful tips in there. Can't forget putting it in the freezer though. If you put them in and you make sure you have a really flat surface, they will actually freeze flat like little chili discs, and they become extremely efficient space users in your freezer. Again, thanks for watching. I'm always expanding my garden and farming skills and find myself doing interesting projects when I can find the time. It's even trickier now with this little munchkin, but we're figuring out how to make it all happen and then some. It's always an opportunity to learn plenty of new things. Hopefully you can find something helpful within my videos and I can pass it along.